part of the light spectrum has the ability to activate biological functions by activating a cytochrome on the mitochondrial membrane. And what is interesting for brain conditions is the ability to reduce and modulate inflammation. And neuroinflammation is common to several kinds of brain conditions.
Crazy.
Guillaume, thanks for joining me today on the show.
Yeah, thanks for having me, Logan.
So you've got this product in photobiomodulation. We're going to break down what that means. But I want to just get to know you first and kind of introduce you to our audience. Where did your interest in this field of science begin? Have you always been in the healthcare industry? Kind of walk us through some of those big major milestones that led you to this field.
Yeah, I've a background in public health, and yes, I've worked for healthcare institutions and companies as well. And since the last decades, I've worked with several medical technology companies. And during that time, I have discovered applications of photobiomodulation, and it has inspired me because of this inspiration, and especially to apply photobiomodulation in neuroscience to treat brain conditions. This is in that way I have co-founded REGEnLIFE.
Okay, so photobiomodulation, it's to dumb it down for me, it's light therapy at a simple level. Explain to me what it is, and then talk us through kind of your eureka moment. When was it in the course of your work that you realized, you know what, this application of light, particularly on the brain, but light as therapy, when did you realize this had really phenomenal applications for health?
There are several kinds of applications of light therapy, and photobiomodulation is one. You have the light therapy to treat seasonal depression when you are exposed to a specific lump. Mm-hmm. And you have the photodynamic therapy to activate a molecule locally with the heat of light. And photobiomodulation means to modulate biology with light. So this technique allows to diffuse specific wavelengths through the tissues. And this specific wavelengths is in the red and near infrared spectrum. Okay. And this part of the light spectrum has the ability to activate biological functions. Okay. By activating a cytochrome on the mitochondrial membrane. Okay. And what is interesting for brain conditions is the ability to reduce and modulate inflammation. And neuroinflammation is common to several kinds of brain conditions.
Okay, so everyone's talking about inflammation. You hear about the effects of inflammation everywhere. So the fact that infrared light, which is safe, right? Infrared, as far as I know, infrared light is pretty safe compared to other things. Certainly compared to drugs, extremely safe. The fact that infrared light could reduce inflammation is like a big breakthrough. Am I right? Like that idea is a big deal.
Yes.
How new of an idea is that, and how accepted is it as science?
Actually, photobiomodulation is studied since several decades. Okay, and
but for inflammation itself,
globally, not only for inflammation, because it also have other kind of effects, and the effect on inflammation is studied. Maybe it's more recent, and actually we also need more research to understand, to figure out well the mechanism of action. But currently with the animals model, and especially in neuroscience, we can clearly observe the effect of neuroinflammation. At REGENLIFE, we have explored the impact of our own technology on neuroinflammation, on Alzheimer's disease animal models, but also depression model, and more recently on the model of multiple sclerosis. And in this model, we have dived deeply into the impact regarding neuroinflammation, and it's really promising.
Just for further validation, I get it. So what I'm hearing you say is, for a long time, we understood the anti-inflammatory properties maybe in dermatology. I think you mentioned dermatology. So like on the skin, it's one thing to just shine light on your body. It's another thing to target cells. And what were some of the technical challenges required in targeting the light to the right cells, the right tissue? What did you have to kind of work through there?
Yeah, actually, that's the most important challenge we have faced at REGENLIFE, to develop a product which technically was efficient to target the brain with light, because actually, as you say, to target the skin, because it is at the surface, it's quite easy to target it with light. But if you want to target the brain, you have to cross hairs, you have to cross skull, blood. So there are many barriers. So we have to think the product to be efficient and to allow to the light to go as deeply as possible into the brain, because it has a limitation. So for that, we have developed a helmet. It's a modular helmet, and the module allow to have an important proximity from light emission to the skull. And we have developed optical guides to craft the hairs and optimize the light rays. So, and we have also chosen specific optical components, and we also covered the whole head.
Yeah. Well, and, you've done studies with mice, correct?
We have started with animal models.
Animal models. Any surprising or interesting results from the animal models?
Yeah, well, it was really interesting, and it was that we have experimented the photobiomodulation application on the head only, the abdomen only, and both head and abdomen, to target the brain, the gut, or the brain and the gut. And actually, the best results we had in this study, it was by combining a double application on brain and gut. And actually, there is a brain-gut connection. The brain and the gut are interconnected because of nerves and biochemicals. Now we know that there are more and more evidence that this brain-gut microbiota axis play a role in the development of neurological conditions.
Yeah. What do you think? That's something that a lot of people are talking about, the gut-brain connection, the microbiome. Where do you think this is leading? So you're kind of building some of the scientific framework that helps us understand the gut-brain connection. Where do you think that is leading in terms of like future therapeutics that would deal with the brain and the gut at the same time?
We have explored this double application on several animal models in Alzheimer's, depression, multiple sclerosis. And we observed that the efficacy is better. And that's why we have translated this research into clinical trials, because we currently have a clinical development, which is quite advanced. So yes, I'm convinced that the gut is an interesting target to treat brain conditions, and there are some drugs in development which have the aim to target the gut, the microbiota, to treat the brain. So regarding our application, we deliver light to the brain, to the gut to reduce inflammation. And by targeting these both organs simultaneously, we can expect to rise the therapeutic efficacy.
Got it. Do you envision in the future, I know you've got a long-ish road of clinical validation and all the science you have to do. Do you envision in the future a device that's in a clinic that you come in and you receive the therapy, or is it something that's more mobile that might live at a primary care office? What's your vision for that?
Yeah, it's a very good question because currently we have a pivotal clinical trial in 3 hospitals. And patients get the treatment at the hospital. We are opening 3 more hospitals in the next weeks. And so patients will also have the opportunity to get the treatment during a period of 6 months, several sessions per week, and a session has a duration of 20 minutes. So once we will get the market approval, we plan to commercialize and to make accessible for patients, not only at the hospital, but also at home.
Okay, let's talk about Alzheimer's specifically, because that's where you're focusing first, right? Even though there's a lot of applications for photobiomodulation and for inflammation in the brain. You mentioned MS, multiple sclerosis, right? So
right.
With Alzheimer's, talk to me about what's actually happening. Is it a therapy? Is it sort of slowing the progression? Is it a replacement for pharmaceuticals, an adjunct for drugs? Kind of where does it fit into the larger picture?
Currently, we evaluate our treatment on mild to moderate Alzheimer's disease patients. We expect to improve the symptoms, but also slowing the disease. And so according to the results we have, we will see what really had the results and how we can, and how this technology can slow down the disease, improving symptoms, or both. Yep. We plan to launch a clinical trial on treatment-resistant depression. So here, our technology will be used as an adjunctive treatment combined with antidepressants drugs.
What would you say to somebody who didn't understand the science and they thought that the idea of shooting light at your brain, that seemed like it seemed impossible. It seemed like it wouldn't work. In the past, maybe there's been some light therapy that wasn't clinically backed, and so there's maybe some skepticism about phototherapy. What would you say to somebody in terms of the actual, like there's actual biological mechanisms happening here? How would you explain that to somebody?
Yeah, I know at first the idea of treating neurological conditions by targeting the brain with particles can seem crazy. And that's also why the scientific approach is so crucial. And that's what we do. Currently, there are a strong scientific state of the art in neuroscience, and especially on animal models, which have evaluated photobiomodulation on several kinds of brain conditions. But currently, there are probably not enough clinical trials and not enough robust clinical trials. And there are also several kinds of photobiomodulation applications. And what is important is to evaluate clearly a technology which have the potential to be used as a treatment. But because, of course, you can find a lot of photobiomodulation devices on the market, but most of these devices are not evaluated properly and sometimes not evaluated at all. So we have at REGENLIFE specialized our company into that kind of technology and find the best techniques and find the best way to evaluate it and make it accessible for patients.
People in the Alzheimer's industry talk about amyloid and tau. They talk about these plaques that form in the brain, these tangles. These are some of the language that gets used, which kind of helps people outside the scientific community understand that there's actual physical things going on in the brain. There's actual changes happening. At a lower level of literacy, what does the light do in terms of the plaque, the tangles? Like, how could you explain what's happening with the light therapy there?
The light therapy will not directly target the amyloids and tau proteins, but regarding the scientific state of the art, and especially on animal models, and also what we have observed in our own studies, is that, yes, we have an impact on amyloid and tau. At the clinical level, there is currently not enough science about it, and it's not the main target. And what is, the first action is on mitochondrial, oxidative stress, and inflammation.
Are you saying then that by strengthening the mitochondria, you are making the brain more able to sort of heal itself versus untangling the tangles, getting rid of the plaque? You're kind of regenerating REGENLIFE. You're kind of helping the brain heal from within. Is that kind of what I'm hearing?
Yeah, we can. The philosophy is more to strain the cells, the brain cells, to fight against the disease rather than destroying what is causing the disease. But it is something we have to measure in our clinical trials, and that's why in our current clinical trial, Light for Life, for mild to moderate Alzheimer's disease patients, we will measure in the blood amyloids and tau.
Talk to me about your vision. How would you like life to be different for folks that are facing a Alzheimer's diagnosis, let's say 5-7 years from now, because of this work that you're doing? How would you like their approach to therapies and their outlook to change?
Well, there are probably many things to change, and of course, the first thing is to prevent from that kind of diseases. And brain and mental health is a priority. I believe that a healthy society with healthy people have a healthy brain. So we have to think about how we could change our habits to make our brain healthier, and because there are several ways to have an action on it: physical activities, cognitive activities, the way we learn, etc. But we also need treatment options, and especially for people who have brain conditions, because there are very few options, and I believe that if a treatment can be safe, that could be great to have solutions and ways to evaluate it easier beyond clinical trials. Another way to get data from patients using a technology which is considered very safe, like photobiomodulation.
Yeah. You're building this company in France, in the south of France. I love that in the startup health community, people bring their global perspective to the table, and every region, every country has something unique to bring to the table. How do you feel like developing the company there in France has impacted the culture of the company and kind of how you think about health?
France is sometimes considered as a country where the life can be healthy. And I live in the south of France, and it's a sunny place to live. And but it's also at Montpellier. It's not a big city, but there are several kind of companies working in the field of healthcare, and it's a very interesting ecosystem to work in, because there are several companies in the field of medtech, e-health, health tech, and we can share our experiences with other entrepreneurs, and there is a strong ecosystem, and I'm delighted to grow in this ecosystem. And actually, Montpellier is also close to several European cities, Paris, Barcelona, Geneva. I cannot consider totally that it has an impact on the way we work at REGEnLIFE. But yeah, I think our team is happy to live there as well.
Yeah. I mean, there's you can't deny it. There's a European mentality towards health and healthcare and how it's provided for people. I'm sure there's a French sort of philosophy about preventative health and kind of what that means and what your emphasis should be that might be different from the United States. And so we bring these differences to the table. And I believe you have a very important voice in our Alzheimer's Moonshot for that very reason.
Yes, and in Montpellier we have now a label which is called MedValley, and it's based on the One Health concept. So health is considered from all the point of view, medical, nutrition, environment, and all these elements of the health is considered. And there are more and more companies working on these aspects of health.
Sounds like I need to visit. That sounds great. Well, Guillaume, thanks for taking time with me and explaining what you're doing at REGEnLIFE and this fascinating work in photobiomodulation. I have to sort of say that slowly. It's fascinating, and it's going to be exciting to see how your clinical trials play out. And it's great to know that you're already in hospitals, you're doing work with real people, and already seeing those results. So we're going to have to check back in regularly and hear about this work.
Thank you, Logan.
All right, take care. Be well.
Take care.